Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Unslaved Podcast. Very happy to be here once again with you. We also have Kayla back to help us with part 2 of this little mini series we've been doing on this book that we were talking about called The Monstrous Feminine. And then, of course, Michael, we went through some slides in the first episode, if you haven't caught that, where we were going through the book and going through these different concepts that many people aren't talking about today and that are very, very important when we're understanding psychology, female psychology, the psychology of the child, and ultimately the psychology of our society. So we're going to continue that analysis by looking at some films, looking at some symbolism, and going deeper into this subject. So welcome, gentlemen. Caleb, so good to have you back, man.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Well, you'd actually send us a bunch of slides because you picked up on many things. I mean, again, when we did the first show, I hadn't even finished the book really, and you hadn't either. So there definitely was a number 2 needed to be done, a summary. But you've also added features from films, hopefully to help our audience who are new to this open their eyes and see how these directors and producers work. And but if you want to just start with a summary of what you thought of our book, and you know, the first presentation, and then we'll get into a few of these slides which deal with the oral aspect. But before you even get into that, what was your impression of the book and even our first program that you saw?
Well, I couldn't really ask for more from a book because, you know, I realized a long time ago that movies have things in them that you can you have to have the keys of decipherment to pull these hidden meanings out of movies, and there's so many different approaches to that you know, you need all of the approaches and all of the keys of decipherment to really get everything out of a movie. And this book has, you know, mentions so many movies that I've seen before and I've already attempted to decipher, like The Thing by John Carpenter, and well, that's the only one that comes to mind at the moment. But like there's more that I've actually already tried to decipher. And when I read this book, I'm like, wow, you know, it's just given me hidden meanings in these movies that I'd never even considered. Of course, coming from the Freudian perspective, and yeah, it's awesome. I think it's a great book. I mean, it's a little bit, the language is not something, at least for me, that's fast reading, but you know, you just work your way through it, and the payoff is huge.
And movies like The Hunger and so on, right? There is this oral element, because what we dealt with the Abject, and we'll talk about that later on, it's the female presented, isn't it, in a certain way. Feminists are very loath to talk about that, but Creed and Christiva have actually touched on it. The book is marvelous, but it has limitations because it's a thesis that didn't catch on. Feminism dropped it as fast as these mega names get into it, and somehow it was dropped. Then you've got to give them a star because they analyzed Freud in a very perceptive way, but then you have to take it away again because seeing something in Freud they didn't want to mention, they went in yet another direction. So this thing is very, very labyrinthine. But if we go to the first slide that you sent me, these slides, take us through some of these, will you? The oral, how did you see this extraordinary motif in so many separate films? I recognize the one on the right there is Nosferatu the Vampire, and this eating scene and this whole palaver about the food, right? And what's this one on the left?
Yeah.
Is that The Tower, or what is that film?
Okay, the one on the left is actually the one that really set it off for me, because people need to go back to one of your first episodes. It's episode 8 of the Unslaved podcast, Psychic Vampirism, and you're talking about Pizzagate there, and talking about Pizzagate there, and the fact that it's food symbolism, and food symbolism is oral symbolism. And immediately I knew what you were talking about because I've read, about Freud's ideas regarding to the stages, but I'm more of a bioenergetic sort of Wilhelm Reich oriented person, so I understand those zones as being psychosomatic zones. Uh, so the oral zone is a whole armor segment. So yeah, that picture there on the left is from a movie by John Carpenter called Body Bags. It's 3 30-minute segments, and the first one. Now, John Carpenter is known as the master of horror, but this first segment is actually more of like a crime thriller because there's a killer on the loose, and it's a serial killer, and it's on the radio and on the news. Nobody knows who it is. Well, that screenshot there is the first time that you get a face shot of the character who actually ends up being the killer. This is the only one I'm going to spoil for people. When you pause it, by the way, the time reads 3 minutes and 22 seconds. I don't know if that was a coincidence. Kind of doubt it, but I guess I was just turned on at the moment when I was watching this, and as soon as I saw his face and I saw his hands go up to his mouth like that, I knew he was going to be the killer, right? And like I said, it was only 3 minutes into the movie, and I already knew who the killer was. Just, I don't know, just something just came to me right there at that moment. And by the time I got to the end of it, I had already doubted my judgment several times because he tries to get you to think it's this guy, and then he tries to get you to think it's this guy. He tries to throw you off and make you suspect that the killer is this person here, this person there. But if you pay attention to these crime thrillers and these murder mysteries, and watch out for the first person who takes food and puts it to their mouth. A lot of times that'll end up being the killer. You can decode you can see what's going on in these movies way before the actual plot line reveals to you what's going on. It's these little cues that are being communicated to you. But go to the next slide.
Well, my Psycho does the same thing. Psycho, they're eating sandwiches and so on. Yeah, exactly. What's this one?
Now here we have Rosemary's Baby. And to me, when I watched this movie, the food just kept sticking out to me because there were so many scenes where they're all sitting down at a dinner table eating. They got their forks and knives out, and lots of sounds of silverware on the plates, and yeah, it just really stuck out to me. Of course, this is a movie that involves a satanic cult and everything, but they're poisoning the woman, the main character of the movie, Rosemary. They're poisoning her in her food. They're actually giving her this food to eat, and it's got drugs in it that's gonna like basically turn her into a zombie. It's sort of like the Datura concept. Yeah, go to the next slide. So now we're involving the concept of drugs and food. All right, now we have wolfen. So this can be this oral mouth thing can be presented in all sorts of ways. But whenever you see it, I would say pay attention to it because and it's so subtle, man. It's so subtle. It's the only people who are going to pick up through this stuff is, well, now all of you, because I'm telling you about it. But if you're not paying attention to it, it's going to pass right by you. All right, but so this is Wolfen. Wolfen is a movie about a detective who is investigating murders in New York City, and you eventually find out that these murders are actually slayings by these wolfmen, these sort of shapeshifters that used to coexist with the Native Americans. Well, this detective comes in to investigate it, and you always see him just freaking shoveling food into his mouth the whole time. Like, first time you see him, he's got his coffee and donuts, like all cops do, and he's got a cream horn there, and he's like, just chomping away at this cream horn. Later on, he has, as he's carrying out his investigation, he goes into a morgue where they're doing autopsies. So he's in this really busy room in the morgue, and it's New York City, so their coroner's office is like super busy. So there's dead bodies coming in and out of this morgue, and they're just hacking up these corpses and everything. And he's just standing there waiting for the coroner to come tell him what he found, what kind of results he got for his murder victim. Well, he's sitting there staring at this corpse whose teeth is falling out, and he's just go to the next slide.
I don't know if I got them
Yeah,
all.
and
Yeah,
as
but there
he's
you are. Yeah.
yeah, as he's sitting there waiting around in the morgue, he's just freaking eating cookies,
Yeah.
So you'll see
remember
this
the
guy.
scene.
He's like doing it right.
Mhm.
You know what's funny?
We'll
I
come
just
back.
noticed
We'll
too.
come back to.
I just noticed, if you look, I know it sounds gross, but if you look at the bottom right picture where the body's on this little block, it kind of looks like a strawberry cheesecake, like New York cheesecake. I don't know, maybe that's just my imagination running.
Hey,
No,
well,
you're right.
that's exactly what we're talking about, man. Though.
That's exactly the way.
All right, now this bottom right image, the pictures are a little out of order, so we'll just that's fine. The bottom right image is actually from The Lost Boys. But go to the next slide. We'll come back to that in a sec. Or, well, you don't have to come back to it. I'll just talk about it. Right, so The Lost Boys, we have another food scene that involves the food. Yeah, so the main character, Michael, he gets spotted by this vampire cult. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen The Lost Boys. If not, it's a really great movie. You should check it out. So they take him into this cave, and he doesn't know they're vampires. He's just sort of being initiated into this subculture kind of group. And he thinks these guys are like cooler than him, so he's like just hanging out with them, right? When he goes down into the cave, first thing they do is they hand him a joint, and he takes a hit off of it. So he's getting high. He's already kind of getting a buzz going on. And then they sit down, and the vampire leader starts handing them Chinese food. First, he hands him a box of rice and starts eating it. He says, "How you like those maggots?" Right? And then he's like, "What do you mean?" And he looks down at it, and it's maggots, and he throws it on the ground, and it's rice.
Oh, so that's that's from May. Okay, I see.
Yeah, those are the maggots. All right, next slide, and then go to the next one. Yep, there, and then he hands him noodles, right? And then he's like, "How you like them worms?" And then he throws the worms down on the ground. It's just noodles, and he's like, "Oh man!" And they're all laughing at him. They're basically just making him hallucinate. So then they're like, "All right, here we go. Bring out the bottle." So they bring the bottle out, and they hand it to him. And by this time, they're all egging him on. And the girl comes over to him, and she's like, "Don't drink it. It's blood." And he's like, "Yeah, right. Of course, you've already lied to me about the food."